We're learning more tonight about the dark and final days of legendary superstar Whitney Houston. Her ex-husband, Bobby Brown, revealing new and intimate details of the couple's turbulent marriage.
Known for their soulful voices and unforgettable hits, these R&B stars once ruled the charts. But behind the music was a darker battle. From addiction struggles that almost destroyed their careers to public breakdowns that shocked fans worldwide, this video takes you deep inside the lives of the 15 worst junkies in R&B history. We'll explore the rise, the fall, and the lasting scars of fame caught in the grip of addiction. This isn't just a tale of downfall, it's a raw look at the human cost behind the spotlight and the hope for redemption beyond the darkest moments. 1. Whitney Houston. Whitney Houston's voice remains one of the most iconic in the history of music, a breathtaking blend of power, grace, and soul. She dominated the charts throughout the 80s and 90s, with hits like I Will Always Love You and Greatest Love of All, cementing her place as a global superstar. But beneath her radiant public image was a woman grappling with profound personal demons. Houston's battle with substance abuse, especially cocaine and prescription drugs, became a tragic part of her story. Her struggle was highly publicized, with her once perfect voice starting to show signs of wear. The press and public watched as her personal life unraveled, from her tumultuous marriage to Bobby Brown to the repeated stints in rehab. Despite the decline in her health and career, Houston made several attempts at recovery, hoping to reclaim her former glory. Yet, the damage was done. In 2012, just before a planned comeback at the Grammys, Whitney Houston was found dead in a Beverly Hills hotel room, the victim of an accidental drowning, with cocaine and other substances contributing to her untimely passing. Her death shocked the world, but her legacy, both the music and the struggles, is a poignant reminder of the pressures of fame and the devastating effects of addiction. Whitney Houston's story is not just one of addiction, but also of undeniable brilliance and a voice that could captivate the world. Her tragic end only highlights the fragility of talent and the hidden battles many face behind closed doors. Even in death, she remains a symbol of both the heights of success and the depths of personal despair. 2. Bobby Brown. Bobby Brown was once the bad boy of R&B, a charismatic force of nature with undeniable talent. As a founding member of New Edition, he helped shape the sound of 80s R&B, and his solo career skyrocketed with hits like My Prerogative and Every Little Step. But behind his electrifying stage presence and chart-topping hits, Brown was no stranger to controversy, and his struggles with substance abuse became a major part of his public persona. Brown's relationship with drugs, particularly cocaine, alcohol, and marijuana, overshadowed much of his career. His downward spiral was compounded by his tumultuous marriage to Whitney Houston, whose own addiction issues mirrored his. Together, they formed a powerful but destructive couple, and their battles with drugs became a constant topic in tabloids. Despite his immense talent, Brown's career was marred by erratic behavior, run-ins with the law, and struggles to maintain his health and personal life. After years of battling addiction and seeing his career stall, Bobby Brown has tried to find peace and rebuild his life, acknowledging his past mistakes. His path to redemption has been a slow, difficult journey, but his story is one of survival. He became a father, and in his later years has focused on staying clean, even though the scars of his past remain. While Bobby Brown's legacy will always be tied to his groundbreaking music, his life serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of fame and addiction. A man who once stood on top of the world, his fall from grace was swift and painful. But his story, like many others, is not just about addiction. It's about redemption, survival, and the complexities of life in the spotlight. 3. Ray Charles Ray. Charles is widely regarded as one of the greatest musicians of the 20th century, a pioneer whose influence transcended R&B, jazz, gospel, and even country music. His voice, soulful and raw, touched the hearts of millions, and his innovative fusion of genres redefined the musical landscape. However, beneath his genius was a man struggling with addiction. Charles' battle with heroin began in the 1940s, and it nearly cost him his career at the height of his success. Despite his immense talent, his addiction was a constant presence, often causing erratic behavior and delaying his rise to superstardom. For 2 decades, Charles lived with a crippling dependency on heroin, which impacted his personal life and professional commitments. At times, it seemed as though his talent might be overshadowed by his substance abuse, as his performances became sporadic and his career faced serious setbacks. In the early 60s, after hitting rock bottom, Charles made the brave decision to kick his heroin habit, entering a rehabilitation center to regain control over his life. His recovery allowed him to continue making music, and by the mid-60s, he was back at the top, producing timeless hits like Georgia on My Mind and Hit the Road Jack. Charles' story is one of incredible resilience, showing that even in the face of addiction, there was hope for redemption. However, his past never fully disappeared. The effects of his addiction were visible in his turbulent relationships and the pressures of maintaining his career. Ray Charles's legacy is not just in the music he created, but in his personal battle against addiction, a battle he fought valiantly, proving that even the brightest stars can fall, but also rise again. 4. James Brown. James Brown, the godfather of soul, revolutionized music with his electrifying performances and undeniable influence on genres like R&B, funk, and rock. His contribution to the music world is immeasurable, with hits like I Got You, I Feel Good, and Papa's Got a Brand New Bag, shaping the sound of generations. But behind the scenes, James Brown's life was marred by addiction, erratic behavior, and legal troubles, often overshadowing his musical genius. Brown's struggles with cocaine and alcohol were well documented and impacted both his personal and professional life. His addiction fueled his notoriously volatile temper, leading to multiple run-ins with the law and causing friction within his personal relationships. Though he was known for his impeccable stage presence and work ethic, his substance abuse began to catch up with him in the 1970s as his health deteriorated and his once unassailable reputation began to falter. Despite his personal demons, Brown's career never truly stopped. He remained active in the music industry, performing and recording, even as his battles with addiction intensified. His story is one of highs and lows, a man who changed the course of music history, yet could not escape the personal turmoil that came with his fame. His addiction, however, did not define him entirely. Even as his life spiraled out of control, his music remained powerful and impactful, resonating with fans around the world. James Brown's later years were marked by attempts at recovery, but the damage had already been done. His legacy is a testament to the complexity of fame, a man who gave the world unforgettable music, but whose life was often defined by the very struggles that threatened to undo him. His death in 2006, at the age of 73, marked the end of an era, but his contributions to music will never be forgotten. 5. Diana Ross. Diana Ross is one of the most influential and beloved figures in the history of R&B and pop music. As the lead singer of the Supremes, she helped define the sound of the 60s and played an essential role in the rise of Motown. Ross's powerful voice, stage presence, and charisma made her a global superstar, and her solo career only solidified her legendary status with hits like Ain't No Mountain High Enough and I'm Coming Out. However, despite her success, Diana Ross's life has been complicated by personal struggles, including her battles with substance abuse. While she was always careful to maintain a polished public image, rumors about Ross's use of drugs and alcohol have lingered throughout her career. There were whispers about her struggles with pills and drinking, and some reports suggest that her drug use may have contributed to the difficult periods in her personal life, including her tumultuous marriages and complicated relationships with those closest to her. Despite these challenges, Ross continued to perform, often with the same strength and poise that had made her an icon in the first place. Ross's addiction issues were never as public or as severe as those of some of her contemporaries, but her struggles behind the scenes paint a picture of a woman under constant pressure. The demands of being a superstar, coupled with the personal chaos that often accompanies fame, can take their toll on anyone. Through it all, Diana Ross has remained a symbol of resilience, continuing to perform and inspire fans even as she faced her demons. Her legacy is defined not only by the incredible music she made, but also by her ability to endure and rise above the challenges that threatened to define her life. 6. Marvin Gaye. Marvin Gaye's soulful voice and emotionally charged music made him one of the most beloved artists in R&B history. Known for his intimate ballads and socially conscious anthems like What's Going On and Sexual Healing, Gaye's music spoke to the hearts of millions. Yet, behind his iconic melodies and smooth vocals lay a man struggling with deep personal demons, including a battle with drug addiction that would ultimately contribute to his tragic demise. In the 1970s, at the peak of his fame, Gaye's life began to unravel as he descended into a spiral of substance abuse, particularly cocaine. His addiction led to erratic behavior and strained relationships with family members and fellow musicians. He was also deeply affected by personal tragedies, including his strained relationship with his father and his own battles with depression. Gaye's drug use took a toll on both his creativity and his health, resulting in periods of self-imposed isolation and a long creative hiatus. Despite his struggles, Marvin Gaye tried to make a comeback in the 80s with the album Midnight Love, which produced his hit Sexual Healing. The song was a commercial success, and Gaye seemed to be on the verge of reclaiming his position as one of the world's top performers. However, his personal problems, fueled by addiction and emotional trauma, continued to plague him. In 1984, at the age of 44, Gaye's life was tragically cut short when he was shot by his father during an argument at their home. His death shocked the world and marked the end of a legacy cut far too short. Marvin Gaye's story is a poignant reminder of the price of fame, the toll of addiction, and the fragile nature of genius. His music, however, continues to resonate, immortalizing him as one of the greatest artists of all time. 7. Ike Turner. Ike Turner's legacy is undeniably complex. As one of the pioneers of rock and roll and R&B, Turner's contributions to music are legendary. His work with Tina Turner, particularly their groundbreaking duo, produced some of the most electrifying and influential music of the 60s and 70s, including the hit Proud Mary. But Ike Turner's story is also one of personal turmoil, including a long history of substance abuse, and troubled relationships that often overshadowed his musical genius. Ike's addiction to cocaine and other substances became notorious throughout his career. His struggles with drugs fueled his erratic behavior and violent tendencies, particularly in his relationship with Tina Turner. Tina famously escaped their abusive marriage, an act that ultimately propelled her to solo stardom, but it left Ike with a tarnished reputation and an ongoing battle with addiction. His personal life became a public spectacle, filled with arrests, rehabilitation stints, and years of trying to reclaim a sense of stability. Though Ike's career never fully recovered after Tina left him, he did continue to perform and record music, but his personal life continued to spiral. The destructive path of addiction led to numerous setbacks, and his once promising career never regained the heights it had reached during his time with Tina. In his later years, Ike did attempt to seek redemption, reflecting on his past mistakes and drug use in interviews. He even made some efforts to rebuild his relationship with his children and family. However, the damage had already been done, and in 2007, Ike Turner passed away from a cocaine overdose at the age of 76. His story is a tragic reminder of the destructive power of addiction, not only to one's personal life, but also to one's career and legacy. 8. Sly Stone. Sly Stone, the mastermind behind the revolutionary funk band Sly and the Family Stone, changed the face of music with his bold, genre-defying sound. Known for his eclectic mix of rock, funk, and soul, Stone was a trailblazer who introduced a new wave of music that influenced not only R&B, but pop and rock as well. His hit songs like Everyday People and Thank You, Falletten May Be Mice, Elf Agen, became anthems for the counterculture movement of the late 60s and early 70s. However, the man behind the music, Sly Stone, was fighting a battle of his own, one that would slowly destroy his career and personal life: addiction. Stone's drug use, particularly his addiction to cocaine and heroin, became a major part of his downfall. As his fame grew, so did his reliance on substances, which took a toll on both his physical and mental health. His increasingly erratic behavior and unreliability led to the disintegration of his band, and many of his creative projects fell apart due to his inability to focus and meet commitments. Sly's erratic performances, often inconsistent and lacking the energy that once defined his shows, reflected the impact of his addiction on his ability to maintain his career. By the mid-1970s, Sly Stone had disappeared from the spotlight, retreating into a world of isolation and drug dependency. Despite brief attempts at a comeback, he was never able to recapture the magic that made him a household name. His influence on music remains undeniable, but his legacy is forever linked to his struggles with addiction. The world of music lost one of its most innovative voices to the darkness of substance abuse, and Sly's story serves as a stark reminder of how addiction can consume even the most brilliant talents. 9. R. Kelly. Kelly's career once stood as a shining beacon in the world of R&B. Known for his smooth voice and massive hits like I Believe I Can Fly and Ignition remix, he shaped the sound of an entire generation. His talents as a singer, songwriter, and producer helped elevate him to superstardom in the 90s and early 2000s. However, as his fame grew, so did the whispers about his personal life, particularly concerning his struggles with substance abuse and troubling behavior. Though his battles with alcohol and drugs were not as widely publicized as other aspects of his life, R. Kelly's addiction became more apparent as his career progressed. His increasingly erratic behavior, both in public and in his relationships, reflected the toll of his personal struggles. It is widely believed that Kelly's substance abuse contributed to his disturbing actions and controversial behavior, which later became the focus of legal battles and accusations of sexual misconduct. For years, Kelly's addiction and personal demons were overshadowed by his musical successes. But as more troubling stories about his personal life emerged, it became clear that his addiction issues were part of a broader pattern of self-destructive behavior. His criminal activities, including his widely publicized 2008 child pornography trial, were overshadowed by his musical influence. But as the Spark Me Too movement gained momentum, the truth about Kelly's actions began to surface. In recent years, R. Kelly has been convicted of multiple counts of abuse, trafficking, and other crimes. His rise and fall from grace serve as a grim reminder of how addiction can contribute to destructive behavior, and how unchecked fame and personal demons can ultimately lead to a legacy built on both musical brilliance and heartbreaking scandal. 10. Teddy Pendergrass. Teddy Pendergrass was one of the smoothest and most charismatic voices in R&B, known for his sultry ballads and captivating stage presence. His career took off in the 70s with hits like Close the Door and Turn Off the Lights, which quickly made him a heartthrob and one of the most sought-after artists of the era. As the frontman of Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes, and later as a solo artist, Pendergrass helped shape the sound of R&B, blending soul with intimate, passionate lyrics. However, behind his soulful voice and glamorous persona was a man struggling with addiction, particularly to alcohol. His dependence on substances often disrupted his personal and professional life, leading to increasing tension within his career. But Pendergrass's life took a dramatic and tragic turn in 1982. when he was involved in a car accident that left him paralyzed from the waist down. This accident was a devastating blow, both physically and emotionally, and marked the beginning of a new chapter in his life, one that would include battling depression and addiction as he adjusted to his new reality. While Pendergrass was recovering, his addiction issues remained a persistent problem. Even as he fought to continue his career after the accident, his struggles with substance abuse continued to cast a shadow over his life. Despite the setbacks, Teddy Pendergrass's resilience was clear. He never fully gave up on his music. He eventually made a comeback, but the toll of his addictions and the trauma of the accident were undeniable. Pendergrass passed away in 2010, but his legacy as one of the most soulful and influential voices in R&B remains intact. His story is one of talent, hardship, and an unrelenting battle with addiction, ultimately shaping both his career and his legacy in the music world. 11. Luther Vandross. Luther Vandross was the epitome of smooth soul, known for his velvety voice and timeless ballads that captured the essence of love, heartbreak, and yearning. Hits like Never Too Much, Dance with My Father, and A House Is Not a Home made him a household name in the 80s and 90s, and his influence on R&B continues to resonate. Vandross was a vocal master, a sought-after songwriter, and a beloved figure in the music industry. However, behind the scenes, he struggled with substance abuse, particularly alcohol, and battles with his own self-esteem. Though Luther was never as publicly tied to hard drugs as some of his contemporaries, his addiction to alcohol had a significant impact on his personal life and career. Friends and family members, including fellow artists, noted that his drinking habits contributed to his periods of isolation and difficulty managing the pressures of fame. Despite these challenges, he continued to produce chart-topping hits and maintain a successful career. However, his battle with addiction affected his personal relationships and his physical health. In 2003, Luther Vandross suffered a debilitating stroke that left him with long-term health issues. Although he survived, the stroke significantly affected his ability to continue performing at the same level, and his career slowly declined. His condition was a cruel reminder of the toll that years of substance abuse can take on the body. Vandross passed away in 2005, leaving behind an incredible musical legacy. Luther Vandross's story is one of resilience and musical brilliance, but also a sobering reminder of the quiet struggles that many artists face. His fight with addiction, combined with his immense talent, ultimately defined his life and career, making his death a loss to both the music world and those who adored him. 12. Frank Ocean. Frank Ocean is known for his boundary-pushing music and his ability to merge R&B with elements of soul, pop, and electronic music. With albums like Channel Orange and Blonde, Ocean became one of the most respected and innovative voices in contemporary music, praised not only for his unique sound, but also for his deeply personal lyrics that explore themes of love, identity, and emotional vulnerability. However, despite his success, Frank Ocean's life behind the scenes has been marked by struggles with addiction, which, while not as publicly intense as others on this list, have been integral to understanding his personal journey. Ocean has spoken candidly about his past struggles with substances like marijuana and ecstasy, reflecting on how they were part of his experimentation and attempts to cope with the pressures of fame. In interviews, he has discussed using drugs as a form of escape, something that briefly provided him solace during the intensely high-pressure years of his early career. While Frank Ocean has remained relatively private about the full extent of his battles with addiction, the emotional depth of his music offers an intimate look at the toll fame and substance abuse can take on an individual. Though Ocean has not faced the same level of public scrutiny over his personal life as some of his peers, it is clear that his journey has been far from easy. As he continues to evolve both as an artist and as a person, Ocean's struggles with addiction are part of the complex narrative that makes his music resonate so deeply with fans. Today, Frank Ocean remains a beacon of artistic integrity, using his struggles to fuel his creativity while navigating the personal challenges that come with fame and vulnerability. 13. Teena Marie. Teena Marie, often called the Ivory Queen of Soul, was one of the most talented and influential artists in the world of R&B. With her unique blend of funk, soul, and pop, she carved out a space for herself in the male-dominated industry, producing iconic hits like Lover Girl, Square Biz, and Casanova Brown. Her vocal range, songwriting, and production skills made her an R&B trailblazer, earning her recognition as a true soul legend. But behind her success lay a personal struggle with addiction that would have a lasting impact on her career and life. Teena Marie's battle with crack cocaine became a significant part of her personal and professional struggles. At the height of her career, her addiction began to take a toll, leading to periods of isolation and mental and physical health challenges. Marie's substance abuse issues were never as publicly chronicled as some of her peers, but they were deeply felt by those close to her. Her addiction cost her opportunities, and while she continued to make music, it was clear that her creative output and personal life were affected by the struggles she faced. Despite her battles, Teena Marie made attempts at recovery, and she eventually overcame her addiction. After years of rehab, she found peace and returned to recording, continuing to release new music. However, the impact of her past never fully disappeared. In 2010, at the age of 54, Marie passed away unexpectedly from natural causes. Her death was a reminder of how addiction can haunt even the most talented individuals, but her legacy lives on through the music she created and the genre she helped shape. Teena Marie's story is one of perseverance, redemption, and a testament to the power of music as both an escape and a healing force. 14. Sam Cooke. Sam Cooke is often regarded as one of the most important and influential figures in the history of R&B and soul music. His smooth, charismatic voice brought songs like A Change Is Gonna Come, You Send Me, and Cupid into the hearts of millions, establishing him as a pioneer in the genre. Cooke's ability to blend gospel, pop, and soul into a sound uniquely his own made him a true icon of his time. However, despite his success, Cooke's life was tragically cut short, and his struggles with addiction were a significant part of his complicated legacy. Though Cooke's drug use wasn't as heavily publicized as some of his peers, there were signs of his battles with alcohol, which likely played a role in his erratic behavior later in life. As his career progressed, his personal life began to unravel. He became increasingly frustrated with the pressures of the music industry and the lack of control he had over his career, which led to bouts of depression. It is believed that these struggles, coupled with his addiction issues, contributed to his emotional instability. Cooke's life ended in 1964 at the age of 33 when he was fatally shot at a Los Angeles motel under mysterious circumstances. While the official cause of death was ruled as justifiable homicide following a confrontation at the motel, many believe that his struggles with alcohol and other issues were key factors leading up to that fateful night. His untimely death shocked the world, cutting short a career that had only just begun to hit its stride. Sam Cooke's legacy, however, remains timeless. He revolutionized soul music and laid the groundwork for future generations of artists. His story is one of brilliance, but also a tragic reminder of how addiction and personal demons can snuff out a bright star before it has a chance to fully shine. 15. Donny Hathaway. Donny Hathaway was one of the most gifted vocalists of the 1970s, known for his rich, soulful voice and emotionally charged songs. With timeless classics like A Song for You, This Christmas, and his duet with Roberta Flack on Where Is the Love, Hathaway's music continues to resonate with listeners today. He was a true pioneer of soul and R&B, blending jazz, gospel, and pop influences into a sound all his own. Yet, despite his incredible talent, Hathaway's life was marked by deep personal struggles, including battles with mental illness and substance abuse. Hathaway's mental health issues were widely discussed, and he often spoke about his struggles with depression. His emotional turmoil was compounded by his battles with drugs, including alcohol, which were rumored to have played a significant role in his deteriorating mental state. Hathaway's depression became increasingly severe, and his substance use only added to the weight of his personal demons. Friends and colleagues noted his often erratic behavior and mood swings, and he was often absent from both his performances and recording sessions due to his fragile mental health. In 1979, at the age of 33, Donny Hathaway's life came to a tragic end when he fell from a window of his Chicago hotel room. His death was ruled a suicide, though some have questioned the circumstances surrounding it, especially given his history of depression and drug use. Hathaway's passing shocked the music world, leaving fans and fellow musicians mourning a life and career cut short. Donny Hathaway's story is a powerful reminder of how mental health and addiction can intersect, shaping not only an artist's life, but also the legacy they leave behind. His contributions to R&B and soul remain influential, and his music continues to be a source of comfort and inspiration to this day. The stories of these 15 R&B icons serve as stark reminders of the dark side of fame, where the pressures of success, personal struggles, and addiction can overshadow even the most brilliant careers. Each of these artists left behind a legacy, not only for their groundbreaking contributions to music, but for the lessons we can learn from their battles. Their stories are a blend of triumph and tragedy, of voices that soared to unimaginable heights, yet were pulled down by the very demons they fought to keep at bay. But let's not forget that behind the addiction, the pain, and the struggles, these artists gave us music that transcended time and place. Their songs became anthems. Their voices became part of the soundtrack to our lives. They are remembered not only for their battles, but for the beauty they created, the hearts they touched, and the way their music continues to heal. As we reflect on their stories, we remember that the road to greatness is often more complicated than we imagine. Addiction is a powerful force, and it spares no one, regardless of talent or fame. But it's also important to remember that recovery, resilience, and redemption are always possible. These artists in their struggles taught us something deeper about vulnerability, survival, and the unbreakable spirit of music. So, while we mourn their losses, let's also celebrate their lives and the art they left behind. Their music still echoes in our hearts, their legacies still resonate through the generations, and their stories continue to inspire us to push through our own struggles. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the lives of these extraordinary artists. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more in-depth retrospectives on the legends who shaped the world of music. Until next time, keep their music alive, and remember, even in the darkest moments, the light of their creativity still shines bright.